What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video here on B-Mills Wrestling. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my full review and reaction to Friday Night SmackDown. I don't typically do Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown reviews on this YouTube channel, but I think I might start doing them. I'm not sure how consistent it's going to be, but if it's a good episode of Raw or SmackDown, I'm going to put a review out for you guys. Before we get into the video, if you guys are not already, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss any new videos. And don't forget to leave a like down below. Alright guys, let's get into this review. Kicking off Monday Night Raw, we had Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan make their way to the ring for a promo. This promo wasn't really for Dominic Mysterio, it was about Liv Morgan, but I did find it kind of funny that Dominic Mysterio is back to being booed by the fans every time he tries to talk. It was funny because obviously they were doing that before WrestleMania, and then WrestleMania came around, he won the title, and they were cheering him. Absolutely everybody in the building was cheering for that man when he won the title, and now they're just back to booing him. I find that so funny. But yeah, like I said, this promo, it was about Liv Morgan. Liv was basically bouncing off of what she was saying last week to Nikki Bella about if you're going to mention who's at the top of this women's division, you have to mention her. And then when she was done talking about Nikki Bella, she moved on to talk about the Women's World Champion, Io Sky, which I found was very interesting and needed because we need a feud for Io Sky and this Women's World Championship. She has not been in a feud since WrestleMania. That was almost 2 months ago at this point. She's one of the most over stars in the company, and you're not doing anything with her other than backstage segments every week, like Karrion Kross, basically. I don't know what they've been doing with her, but finally it looks like we're going to be getting a feud for Io Sky. Or now, with what happened with Liv Morgan, I'm going to get into that, but it looks like that actually might not be happening now. But like I said, I was happy to finally see this. Io Sky, she interrupted Liv Morgan. Liv was basically saying she needs that rematch for the world title because she never properly got a rematch for the Women's World Championship against Rhea Ripley. So I do think that makes sense. Io Sky, she comes out, she interrupts them, basically telling Liv to shut up. If you want the match for the world title, you're going to have to earn it. And then she takes out Liv Morgan with a drop kick. She even takes out Dominic Mysterio with a kick, which I thought was really funny. Dom just caught a stray for no reason. So yeah, obviously, like I said, I'm going to get into what happened with Liv Morgan. But I was super pumped for this segment because it finally looks like we're going to get something for Io Sky and this Women's World Champion. Following that, we had the Fatal 4-Way Women's qualifying match for the Queen of the Ring tournament between the returning Asuka, Stephanie Vaquer, Ivy Nile, and Raquel Rodriguez. I didn't think that this match was too obvious for a winner. I thought it was either Asuka, because she just came back, or it was going to be Stephanie Vaquer, because I feel like they should just push her to the moon because of how over she is. But it was a solid match. Thought there was a lot of good spots in this match. We even had a cool little moment between Asuka and Stephanie Vaquer where they had some good in-ring chemistry. But as we get later into the match, we see Rhea Ripley pull out Raquel Rodriguez to get some revenge on her from last week when Raquel costed Rhea her match in the qualifiers. But in this match, we would see Asuka pinning Raquel Rodriguez to pick up the win. She advances to the semifinals. She will be taking on Alexa Bliss, which I think will be a very interesting and unpredictable match. I'm not sure what's going to happen, if Charlotte will play any role in that match. I am super down for that match, so I think it'll be an absolute banger. But Asuka, she moves on. It brings me to the thought of, will we see Asuka versus Io Sky for the Women's World Championship at some point? I'm thinking if Asuka somehow wins this Queen of the Ring tournament, you obviously get Asuka versus Io Sky. I don't think Asuka is going to win. I think it's going to be Jade Cargill or Alexa Bliss. So I don't think it will be Asuka, but I think the match of Asuka and Io Sky is very intriguing because they're obviously two of the best wrestlers in the world. They're in the same group, the Damage Control. I think that they're ending the Damage Control group, though. At least that's what I saw on Twitter, because obviously Dakota Kai's gone. Bayley's not in the group. They were the three that started it, Bayley, Dakota, and Io. And Kairi's been kind of on a little bit of a solo run herself, so it looks like that's pretty much done. So it would be super cool to see them go in the direction of an Io Sky versus Asuka feud, maybe with an Asuka heel turn. I think that that would be pretty cool. Whether or not that's Asuka winning Queen of the Ring or just somehow earning that match, I would be super down for that at SummerSlam. If it's not Io versus Asuka at SummerSlam, I would also love Io versus Stephanie Vaquer. In my opinion, those are the only two matches they can really go with for SummerSlam. Liv Morgan would be an option, but I don't think they're going to do that. If Liv Morgan is available for SummerSlam, I think that they're going to do either Liv versus Roxanne or Liv and Dom versus Finn and Roxanne. But like I said, happy Asuka's back and won this match. Cannot wait to see what is next for her. Following that, we had the Gunther promo. This is Gunther's first promo as world champion. He is now a two-time world champion in WWE. Obviously, a lot of boos for Gunther, a lot of Jay supporters in that crowd. Not happy to see Gunther as the world champion once again, but he's basically cutting a promo about how he is the better man than Jey Uso 99% of the time. That 1% was at WrestleMania when Jey Uso made Gunther tap out, but Gunther is back on top as the world champion. He was talking about Seth Rollins. He was saying, I know Seth Rollins wants to cash in on me, but just know, it's not going to be easy. I'm standing right here. You can come out right now if you want. You're not getting this world title. But it was not Seth Rollins' music who would hit. It would be the returning Goldberg's music who hits. Goldberg is officially back in WWE as expected. It was rumored for months. This was not a surprise to anyone by any means. Everybody knew he was coming out. They were even chanting Goldberg in the crowd before he even came out. Everybody knew it was bound to happen. We know that Goldberg wanted his retirement match to happen in his hometown, Atlanta, Georgia, at Saturday night's main event, and we knew that that was probably going to be against Gunther. So Goldberg makes his return. A lot of Goldberg chants. A lot of people in the IWC dislike Goldberg, but everybody in that crowd was hot for Goldberg, so I'll give him that. But he makes his return, comes out to the ring. He's just talking about Gunther, congratulating him for winning the world title, talking about how Gunther got in his face a few months ago. I forget. I think it was at Bad Blood because that was in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, at Bad Blood when they had that little altercation, kind of revisiting that, and then Goldberg, did his signature catchphrase, "You're next, you're mine." So Goldberg versus Gunther has been officially announced for Saturday night's main event, which is in Goldberg's hometown, Atlanta, Georgia. That is on July the 12th, I believe. I think it is the day before Evolution, so a pretty packed weekend there. That seems to be like the retirement match for Goldberg. Like I said, that's what he's been wanting, a retirement match. I think it is a good way to go out. I do think Goldberg does deserve a retirement match. I think he's been with the company for a while. I think he is owed that. I just don't understand why the world title has to be on the line. It was said on Twitter that the reason that Gunther won back the title was just so that this match can have the world title on the line, which I think is so dumb. This match, I should say, does not need the title for it. Why is Goldberg competing in world title matches in 2025? I think that is super ridiculous. Like I said, I'm okay with Goldberg getting a retirement match. I think he deserves that. I'm even fine with it being against Gunther because Gunther has a slower pace, and Goldberg doesn't have to keep up with somebody who's too fast paced. I think that makes sense. But having the world title on the line is so dumb because nobody believes Goldberg is gonna win the world title in 2025. And if it did happen, I think everybody would lose their minds, including myself. That would be wild. Goldberg going into SummerSlam as world champion. Oh man, just getting thoughts of that is making me sick. But like I said, Saturday night's main event, we will see Gunther versus Goldberg for the World Heavyweight Championship. After that, we had the announcement of AJ Styles versus Dominic Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship to take place at Night of Champions. Finally, Dominic Mysterio is getting a match on a PLE for the title. I know he just had one at Money in the Bank against Octagon, but there was maybe 3 hours of build for that match. Literally, the match got announced 3 hours before Money in the Bank. He needed to be in a proper feud. They've been teasing this stuff with AJ for a little bit now, so I'm just happy that they're finally getting into it, finally giving us a set date on a match because they've been screwing around with AJ Styles in this IC title picture. They did it with Braun Breaker. They teased it a couple times, and then he was nowhere to be found. Him and Braun never had a match for the title, and I thought the same thing was going to happen with Dominic Mysterio. Thank God we are getting that match at Night of Champions. I hope they give us a proper build because they've been just so focused on Dom and Roxanne and Liv and this Finn Balor story, which, yes, it's a good story. It's probably going to pay off at SummerSlam. But as of right now, we need to build Dom's IC title reign. We need to make him look like a good champion, have him defend the title. So I'm so happy that we are finally getting that match between him and AJ Styles, and I would fully expect Dominic Mysterio to retain in this match. Following that, we would see the one-on-one match between Liv Morgan and Kairi Sane, but very early into this match, we would see Liv Morgan go down with an apparent shoulder injury. They would go to commercial break, have the doctors check on her, but when we returned from commercial break, we would find out that the match was over. They threw up the X, so Liv Morgan did actually get hurt in this match, and it would later be a dislocated shoulder. This absolutely blows. If you know me, Liv Morgan is my favorite female wrestler in the company. Her improvement over the past couple years has just been groundbreaking, and she's just asserted herself to the top of the division. So this just sucks to see her get hurt. Dislocated shoulders. So depending on the severity, she could be back for SummerSlam, which I'm really hoping. But she could miss SummerSlam. Like, these injuries, could be 3 months. If it, depending on the severity of it, it could be a 12-week injury. I'm hoping it's not too severe. But this hurts a lot within the storylines right now. Liv Morgan is involved in 3 different storylines right now. So this hurts all of that. Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez and Finn Balor and the whole Judgment Day drama. Obviously, we're expecting either Liv versus Roxanne at SummerSlam or Liv and Dom versus Roxanne and Finn at SummerSlam. So that's a huge storyline, a huge part of Monday Night Raw that we're probably not going to get the storyline that was going to happen before the injury. There's obviously the storyline with Nikki Bella that they just started for Evolution. It was either going to be Liv versus Nikki or Liv and Raquel versus the Bellas for the tag titles. Now, I don't know what they're going to do, especially if Brie was going to return. I don't know if it's going to be Raquel and Roxanne. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but I really feel bad because, Liv Morgan versus Nikki at Evolution, that was going to be huge for Liv Morgan. And now it looks like she is probably going to miss Evolution because that is less than a month away at this point. Unless she can have a super speedy recovery, which I would hope, it does look like she might actually miss Evolution. Just missing Evolution in general, what she's done for the women's division, this is only the second Evolution ever. She wanted to be a part of that so bad. Being one of the top women in the company just absolutely sucks. And then tonight, obviously, the way they kicked off the show with Liv Morgan calling out Io Sky, wanting a rematch for the Women's World Championship. Now, I guess that goes down the drain too. So that's 3 storylines that we're not going to get to see play out for Liv Morgan. Absolutely sucks. I hope it is a speedy recovery. The question is now, aside from the Nikki Bella storyline and the Io Sky storyline, I want to know what's going to happen with Roxanne and the Judgment Day. Are they going to repeat what they did last year with when Rhea Ripley got hurt, Liv Morgan stepped in and she took Dom away from Rhea because Rhea was away with the injury? Are they going to do the same thing now that Liv is out? Is Roxanne going to fill in what Liv was doing last year by trying to seduce Dom, this and that, and then when Liv comes back, Dom's going to fold for Roxanne? Is it going to be the same storyline? I really didn't want that. I wanted Dom and Liv to stay together because I feel like they just work so well together, and they're great as a team. So I wanted to see them go against Finn and Roxanne at SummerSlam, but I feel like this changes everything because of this injury. But like I said, hope that Liv returns soon because SummerSlam is in her hometown in New Jersey. Even if she could get well for Evolution, that would be huge as well. Just hoping for a speedy recovery. Following that, we had the promo between Bayley and Becky Lynch. This basically was Bayley thanking the fans, telling the fans she doesn't take them for granted, being away for a couple months. She just couldn't wait to get back. And then obviously calling out Bayley, saying that she's always felt 2 steps below Bayley and the rest of the 4 horsewomen, or 3 horsewomen, I should say, because she would be the 4th. This and that. We heard her say that on Chris Van Vliet's podcast as well, but she says it's time for that to end. She wants to beat Becky for that championship and, get ahead of Becky Lynch. And then obviously Becky would come out rocking the Bears gear, which it's so corny. I know that it's cheap heat. You're wearing Chicago Bears in Green Bay, but the Bears have beaten the Packers like 1 time in the last 50 years. All right, that's not the heat that you think it is. It's not the flex that you think it is. But besides that, Becky comes out. Becky's talking about how the fans do not care about Bayley. They did not miss her. They didn't care when she got hurt and was taken out of WrestleMania. They only cared for Becky Lynch, and they cheered for Becky Lynch. Bayley was saying, you're insecure, whether, the fans are going to boo you or cheer you, you're insecure about that. So I thought it was a solid promo between these two. Always good to see, 2 of the 4 horsewomen having a feud in WWE, especially in 2025. I feel like that's really cool. And then obviously we would see them get into the scuffle at the end where Bayley would hit Becky Lynch with a right hand, sending her out of the ring. Becky Lynch says she will fight Bayley for the women's IC title next week, not tonight, but not for the title, which I thought was interesting. But we would get into the segment backstage with Nick Aldis, where he says since Bayley was taken out of a title shot at WrestleMania by Becky, it's only right that the title will be on the line for their match. I just don't understand why they're doing Becky versus Bayley for the title on a random episode of Raw when you have Night of Champions coming up, Evolution, and SummerSlam. I feel like a match like that on Raw makes no sense. But obviously, the way I see this playing out is they're going to have this match. It's probably not going to end clean. I think Lara Valkyria might get involved because we saw her and Bayley have a little bit of tension in their promo backstage, basically where Lara said she was going to come after that title. So I would expect a triple threat at Evolution. I think that's the best route that they can go. But either way, I'm pumped for the match. Would be crazy to see Bayley win the title next week, but I doubt it will happen. I think Becky will retain, or it'll end in a DQ, setting up that triple threat at Evolution. And then finally, for the main event of Monday Night Raw, we would have the Fatal 4-Way men's qualifying match for the King of the Ring tournament between Jey Uso, Bronson Reed, Sheamus, and Rusev. Very hard-hitting match between Sheamus, Rusev, and Bronson Reed. Three meaty men going at it in this match. Jey Uso, obviously all taped up from that moonsault he took from Logan Paul, and then obviously in the brutal match that he just had with Gunther. So he's not 100% going into this match. We basically see Sheamus and Rusev, for the most part, just going at it because obviously they're having their separate feud. You knew that neither of them were going to win this match because they were going to take each other out of the equation. That's exactly what happened. I also didn't see Bronson Reed having any chance of winning this, especially since Braun Breaker didn't advance last week. I fully expected LA Knight to come out and cost him, but there was a lot more shenanigans than just LA Knight coming out. We obviously would see Braun Breaker take out Jey Uso from the top rope, and then we would see Sami Zayn go after Braun Breaker. Sami Zayn would actually get launched over the announce table by Braun Breaker, which was crazy. And then we would see Penta come out. I don't even know where Penta came from. I know he had like an interview, I think, during the commercial break, so I didn't even see that. So Penta came out. When he came out, I just thought that was random as fuck. But he took him out with the moonsault over the top rope. And then we would see LA Knight finally come out. LA Knight would push Bronson Reed off the top rope, allowing Jey Uso to pick up the win in this match. A lot of crazy shenanigans. Obviously, this is leading to LA Knight versus Seth Rollins, which has been rumored all over the internet. Cannot wait for that feud. I think that's huge for LA Knight. But after that, after Jey Uso picks up the win, we hear Seth Rollins' music play. Seth comes out. He just looks pissed. He takes off his glasses. He just looks all serious. Gives all of his crap to Paul Heyman, who's just standing there. He gets into the ring, and then he looks to stomp Jey Uso. But Cody Rhodes' music hits. Cody Rhodes gets into the ring to stop Seth Rollins from going after Jey Uso, which I thought was interesting. I was kind of thinking maybe a Roman Reigns return was happening there, but who am I kidding? Roman Reigns, this guy doesn't show up to work. We haven't seen him in literally months. So Cody Rhodes, he comes out. He gets in Seth Rollins' way. I love what they're doing with Seth and Cody right now because, Seth has been there for Cody Rhodes. He helped him win the title at WrestleMania 40. He was his shield, quote unquote, literally his words. And they've been buddies since then. Seth even told Cody, like, hey, you sell your soul to The Rock, we can't be friends. Cody didn't sell his soul. So, they're not, I wouldn't expect them to be on bad terms. But Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso are obviously very close. So you have that tension there. And for a second straight week, you have that little stare-off between Seth and Cody. And Seth just looked really pissed off when he got out of the ring. Just so curious to where they go with that. Is Seth Rollins going to cash in on Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam? Is that going to be Heist of the Century Part 2? I know, a lot of people are expecting him to cash in for the World Championship at SummerSlam, but what if it's the WWE Championship? I don't know. I would be so here for either one of them. I think that him cashing in on Cody, I know we've already seen the feud before, but I feel like this new version of the feud would be chef's kiss. So either champion, whoever he cashes in on, I'm fine with it. But we would have that. Seth Rollins would leave the ring, and then we would have that little moment between Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. I find it really funny. Whenever I see Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman, Braun Breaker, Braun Strowman, when they're standing on the ramp and they're looking into the ring, and you have Cody standing there, you have Jey standing a little behind him, I always just have, these flashbacks, this PTSD that we're going to hear the words, there's always a plan B, like Triple H, and then we're going to see, Jey turn. There's been, numerous times, when Sami, Jey, and Cody were in the ring, or not Cody, it was CM Punk, when I thought Sammy was going to turn and join Seth Rollins. That was before Bronson Reed debuted in the faction. I always just feel like that is going to happen, but it did not. Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes, they hug it out. We are going to see them square off in the semifinals. I think that's awesome because they're obviously best friends. So I don't know. Obviously, I fully expect Cody Rhodes to win, but I want to see the way that it happens. If it's clean, a heel turn perhaps by Jey Uso, I don't know. I am curious to see what the direction is for Jey going into SummerSlam, if that's reuniting with Jimmy or going after a world title. I don't know. I'm super curious to that. So, yeah, like I said, super excited for Cody versus Jey, and a pretty solid episode of Monday Night Raw. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you guys like this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Don't forget to comment down below what future videos you guys want to see from me. Alright guys, peace.